So the second step in the process is going to be transduction. Remember the overview here: reception, transduction, and response. Receiving a signal, moving that signal into the cell, and the response to that signal. Sometimes that transduction can be a remarkably complex process. So here's our extracellular signaling. So we've been identifying this throughout. So this is the outside of the cell. This is the plasma membrane. This is the inside of the cell. Right? That transduction process has some complexity for a reason. And it allows for us to do several things. It allows for control of the process, and it also allows for an amplification of the message if need be. But notice all these different signal pathways. Notice all these different possible means of communications from one molecule to another. So the signal transduction pathway now can be an entire cascade of molecules. That again comes back to control. The complexity gives us all sorts of control. Okay. The first one I want to share with you is the phosphorylation cascade. Phosphorylation is a big fancy word for the addition of a phosphate to a molecule. Okay. If a molecule has a phosphate group added to it, it's been phosphorylated. That is the entire story of the ATP-ADP cycle. We're phosphorylating ADP to make more ATP. Okay. Now, that is done by individual enzymes referred to as protein kinases. And notice here we have our, let's go to, this is the outside of the cell, outside of the cell, there we go. This is the plasma membrane. This is inside the cell. After the signal's been bonded to after the ligand signal has been bonded to the receptor, notice the cascade, the pathway cascade of ATP molecules phosphorylating different enzymes and all the different steps that takes. A phosphorylation cascade. Now, sometimes that can be a series of situations, such as with cyclic AMP. ATP and ADP have a lesser known cousin, adenosine monophosphate. Okay. Let's take a look at the cyclic AMP. So here we have, this is an epinephrine example. Okay, so this would be, there's two examples here. Okay, there's two different cells being shown here. So epinephrine comes in, we're going to bind with our G receptor. Okay, once it has bound with our G receptor, so here is outside the cell, plasma membrane, and inside the cell. Okay, so now where the epinephrine has the epinephrine ligand has bound to this this G receptor and causes ATP and cyclic AMP to that cascade to begin. And in this case, in epinephrine, that can increase heartbeat, that can dilate the blood, it can cause for all sorts of fight or flight kinds of responses depending on the cell that it has been received. So we have signal transduction. Okay, complexity allows for control, and that control allows us to have a variety of different responses because of it.